Alrighty, Steeler Nation Australia. Welcome back to the channel and possibly welcome to Spotify and Anchor. Guys, I'm trying to broaden my horizons. Is that the saying? I'm not too sure if that's a saying or not. Broaden your horizons? I guess that might be the saying. Anyways, I've been doing some thinking and I was like, I need to get more into the podcast platform. So I do have Steeler Nation Australia on Spotify and on Anchor, and I'll be putting this out on those two platforms. And hopefully, you guys are listening. But I want to try and grow the brand and not just be a channel. Steeler Nation Australia is run by me, Mark. I'm a massive fan in Australia. Been a fan for about 20 years or so. I do some podcasting on BTSC, Behind the Steel Curtain, and I work for another group called the Pittsburgh Steeler Syndicate, and I do my own videos on Steelers Nation Australia on YouTube and Facebook too. So I'm all over the shop. I am all over the shop, but I kind of do miss that podcast platform where I can just talk. I can just talk about the Steelers and talk about whatever, right? Sometimes when you're doing video content, I guess I need to hold your attention more than normal. But in the reality of podcasts, what's fun about podcasts is, and I listen to them too. You know, you can put them on the car. You can do them while while you're driving. You can do podcasts while you're cooking dinner, cleaning the house. While if you are a content creator like myself, you can do podcast platform and have me in the background, or I do it with other podcasts I listen to. Locked On, All Steelers Talk, BTSC. I have these guys in the background, my mate Pittsburgh Owen, in the background while I edit videos and talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, without further ado, I guess that's a pretty good intro for this podcast platform on Spotify and on Anchor. And this is going to, I'm trying to work myself back into the space because I was doing podcast stuff last year and we didn't have too many viewers, but that's all right. One viewer, two viewer, it might lead to 1,000. You never know. And I've always said, I will talk to one person or 1,000. It does not bother me. As long as someone's listening, and to a certain degree, I'm listening too. All right. So let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that the big question at the moment is, who will be quarterback number one? That is a huge, huge, huge question. Now, I am watching the game right now on NFL Game Pass that I have, and I've just seen Trubisky go down the field. He just handed the ball off to Warren, but Warren's playing really well too. I must say that Warren is playing really, really well. Now, this is the thing where I thought, a couple months ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers went out there to get Mitchell Trubisky, and I thought it was a bad pick. I was like, oh, he's a bust. He's not a good. He didn't play very well with the Bears. He was back up with the Bills last year. And I've kind of grown to like Trubisky over the training camp and over the preseason games. I don't think he's put himself in a situation where Trubisky is a bad quarterback. He certainly isn't a great or fantastic one like Mahomes or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, guys like that. But he is a good or an okay to good to pushing maybe great, and we haven't even seen what Trubisky can do with a real offense. If he were to start against the Bengals in Week 1, so the quarterback number one competition, of course, it's going to feature Trubisky. It's going to feature Kenny Pickett, and to a certain extent, as much as people don't like it, it will feature Mason Rudolph. But back to Trubisky. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I thought Trubisky was like an okay signing. I didn't know what the Steelers had to do. There was talks about getting Aaron Rodgers at the time. There was talks about, possibly getting Deshaun Watson. That was around, right? There was talks of Jimmy going to the Steelers. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up getting Mitchell Trubisky. And it's not that bad of a get. I think the guy can play. I think the guy can play in motion. I think the guy can play in the Matt Canada system. I think he's accurate with his passes. It's not a horrible, pickup by the Steelers, right? So I think within contention, the Pittsburgh Steelers having him as QB1, it may work out. Now, here comes the controversy that I guess is what's going to happen. Mitchell Trubisky is playing quite well. However, there's a young rookie named by the name of Kenny Pittsburgh or Kenny Pickett that is playing exceptionally well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In 2 games, Kenny Pickett has, and let me bring up this slide for you guys on YouTube too. So I might be releasing this on YouTube as well. We'll see how we go. Right? Kenny Pickett has 138.6 QB rating over 2 games. Right? That is the highest since 2015 for a preseason quarterback. So the hype is real. Kenny Pickett is better than Skylar Thompson, Desmond Ridder from the Falcons, Brock Purdy, Malik Willis for the Titans, Bailey Zappi, Sam Howell, and Matt Corral. 100 times better than all those blokes. So there is a bit of hype around Kenny Pickett being quarterback number 1, which is fantastic. And I did do a video the other day on Pittsburgh Steeler Syndicate. And if I put this on YouTube, I will bring up some of these slides as well. Because I talked about, I've got a picture here on the YouTube side for the audio guys out there. Jenna Hanna, I brought up a tweet of hers. Kenny Pickett through 2 preseason games, went 19 for 22, 171, 3 TDs, and a QBR of 142, which is similar to what the other one said, right? So it's around 140 QBR for both, okay? And even to a certain extent, Adam Shefty Sheft got into the action. And he went on TV on NFL Live and said, essentially, as soon as Mitchell Trubisky has a stumble, that will open the door to get Kenny Pickett in. Now, let's entertain the idea just for a second. Why does Mitchell Trubisky have to have a stumble for possibly the better quarterback to start at QB number 1? Now, if I were to ask you out there on Spotify, on Anchor, in YouTube land, possibly Facebook, we might as well go everywhere. We might as well try and brand this out everywhere, right? If I were to ask you guys, Steeler Nation, if Adam Schefter says essentially as soon as Mitchell Trubisky has a stumble, that will open the door to get Kenny Pickett, right? Why would they bother even having the chance for a stumble if Kenny Pickett is better? In my opinion, that doesn't make too much sense. The only way it would make sense is that if they believe in Trubisky and they think that he's a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett, right? That's what I would say. Well, I still think that Trubisky will be quarterback number 1 because I think that's just the way the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do things. I think they'll put him in number 1. They won't rush in Kenny Pickett so much, and they'll see what Trubisky can do. Try and fix this O-line. It's a huge problem. The O-line needs to get better. I'm not saying change all the players around. I'm just saying mentality-wise, the O-line needs to get better, right? So if they can fix the O-line to a certain point where they can run Najee hard enough to get some downs and take a bit of pressure off the O-line and pass this football with Trubisky in some play action, some motion, some dimes to George Pickens, then sure, you don't overly need to play Pickett if Trubisky is the better quarterback, if that makes sense, right? But I come back to this notion again of what Adam Schefter is saying. So he's saying right now, essentially, as soon as Trubisky has a stumble, then Kenny Pickett has the door open. So what happens if, in this scenario, that Trubisky never has a stumble? Like ever. Never, ever, ever, ever has a stumble. Do not see that happen. In my opinion, if Trubisky I think if Trubisky starts at quarterback number 1, right? If he starts at quarterback number 1, then I think he wanted to see him succeed, but he probably won't do all 17 games, if that makes sense. He probably won't do all 17 games. So there still is a big chance that Kenny Pickett might come in throughout the year, possibly after the bye, Maybe Trubisky might hurt his leg. Not saying he gets injured, but he might get bruised, banged up, hit a little bit. And Tomlin might walk over to Trubisky and say, mate, actually, I think your leg is hurting today. And then Trubisky will say, what? And he'll say, I think your leg's hurting today. That's what I think he'll say, during one of the weeks. And we might see, pushing towards a healthy scratch, or let the other bloke play, which is Pickett. Let him play for a few games just to see what we have out of Pickett. So I think we're in quite of an interesting dilemma, I think, in the Pittsburgh Steelers, black and gold city that is still of champions. Because we have never faced this reality with the Big Ben in the 17, 18 years that the Steelers had Big Ben as quarterback. Sure, we had backups like Batch. We had backups like Joshua Dobbs, Mason Rudolph a backup, Landry Jones. Who else was in there? Bruce Gradkowski, right? But we never had this actual quarterback camp battle. Now, here's the other point that I want to bring up, right? The other point that I want to bring up. And a lot of people will not like this point. But what if there's a chance that Mason Rudolph can be quarterback number one? Is that even a possibility, or are you saying that I'm crazy? Because in reality, too, Mason Rudolph has had a pretty good training camp. And the reality of the situation, too, in Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph has played some good football. And he came back to beat the Jaguars the exact same way that Kenny Pickett came back to beat the Seattle Seahawks with a game-winning drive for a touchdown. In that last drive of Mason Rudolph, he connected to Tyler Vaughns twice, right? For two big plays that led the team down to the red zone, to then for the go-ahead score to Tyler Snead to pretty much win the game 16-15. So if you're Mason Rudolph and you pick up a newspaper and say, well, Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky are the only two guys in Pittsburgh, gunning for a job, you'd be almost sitting there in disbelief as you had your coffee and reading the newspaper. And maybe this is why that players don't do this. But reading the newspaper and thinking, hang on, I have had a pretty good training camp. I went down the field and beat the Jaguars with the, I guess, the third or fourth string guys on the receivers, right? And me being Rudolph, I'm saying, why am I not in contention? Let's put the fans to a side for a little bit. Myself and you guys listening out there on YouTube, on Spotify, on Anchor, and possibly Facebook, right? Let's put that out there and say, well, you may dislike Mason for his play. You may dislike Mason as a person for some reason, but why can't the guy have a chance? He might be saying that, right? He might be saying that, like, why can't he have a chance? That's what I'm trying to say. He's been back up behind Big Ben for, I guess, 4 years or whatever it was, right? He's 9-8 as a starter. He's not not the same as a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady or guys like that, or Russell Wilson, right? But Mason Rudolph has had some capable play in his career. He's not an absolute dud. I've seen much worse backup play or quarterback play than Mason Rudolph. The only thing I might have against Rudolph in his style of play is, to me, he doesn't really move his feet. Doesn't move his feet that much. Doesn't seem to get out of the pocket. Kind of sticks to his own man or the one route most times and zones in on that. But what you can't take away from Mason Rudolph is him being competitive, because he came back to win the game, right? If this game is about winning, and this reminds me a little bit about, I'll bring the guy up, and if I get hate, I don't care. This reminds me a little bit about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was, a quarterback, and he was more of a running quarterback, more of a football player. But Tim Tebow beat the Pittsburgh Steelers with Demaryius Thomas. Rest in peace, Demaryius Thomas, right? He went on to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and a lot of people said he wasn't a quarterback. At the same time, though, he was still a good player and a good football player. And he led the Broncos out of some misery to get some wins in that season. And very similar to what Mason Rudolph is right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Many people don't believe in him. They don't say, well, he's not a quarterback. However, at the same time, he's a football player and he's winning games. You have to give credit where credit is due, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers and Mason Rudolph, he made an amazing play to George Pickens into the end zone when George Pickens Tony toe tapped into the end zone. Now, a play before that, I'll go on record because I was on record. In my live stream, I was super frustrated that I saw a fumble from Mason Rudolph, right? The offensive line broke down and Mason Rudolph fumbled the football, almost gave the ball away. But one play later, he threw the football versus the Seahawks to George Pickens for a touchdown. And to give credit where credit is due again, that rally to come back to win 16-15, which he also led a 12-play drive. I think it was 12-play drive to get 3 points and then 16-15 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you have to give him at some stage, I think, some credit to Mason Rudolph. So let's recap. We'll make this a short episode, and I do appreciate everyone who listens, if it's on YouTube or on Spotify, Anchor, wherever I put it, I do appreciate it, right? This is more of a podcast version of talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. So let's see how it goes. So if it falls flat on its face, what do? You try again. But let's recap. The Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback one competition. They have Trubisky, which is the guy they signed for the Bears and the Bills, right? 2-year contract. Most likely going to be quarterback number one. They went and got Kenny Pickett in the draft, and he's playing fantastic. And it might be Kenny Pittsburgh time. Kenny two gloves time, right? It might just be that, right? And then you have the guy there that a lot of fans dislike and some fans are okay with, and actually a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans booed Mason Rudolph, which he does not deserve. He does not deserve to be booed. He hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't been in the media doing anything wrong, right? He doesn't deserve that. So you've got a guy there that's played with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's 8-9 his career, and in some contention, I think he deserves a chance to play quarterback number one or backup. Now, Mike Tomlin going into this last game versus the Detroit Lions, right? Mike Tomlin said it's pretty much going to be an open competition. Like he's going to wait until we see what happens. And the cutting of Chris Oladukin kind of tells us that we're going to probably see Trubisky probably in the first quarter, maybe second. Kenny Pickett, I would assume he would be second again, and then Mason Rudolph might finish. And then after, I would say a few days after the game, we probably hear a Mike Tomlin press conference announcing who's going to be quarterback number one. Now, guys, I'm going to give you my opinion who's going to be quarterback number one. As much as I want it to be Kenny Pickett, I don't think it will. I would love to see in this visual here, right? If you're on YouTube, stick around. In this visual here that I'm showing is Kenny Pickett against Joe Burrow. And DeAndre Hall said the other day, he said that he sees a little bit of Joe Burrow in Kenny Pickett. Now, I would love nothing more to see Kenny Pickett versus Joe Burrow week 1 in Cincinnati. That would be fantastic and fun to watch, 110%. Two young quarterbacks going head-to-head and two new eras for the Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals, right? I would love to see that. However, I don't think we will see that. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to start Trubisky if. And here's the big if. I believe they will start Trubisky if he has a good game. And I'm talking about 10 for 12, 120, 140 yards, 1 TD, something similar. If Trubisky has a good game, he doesn't need to have an outstanding game Just go out there and don't have a bad game. And I think Trubisky will be quarterback number one, right? But where does it leave Mason Rudolph? In my opinion, in my Steeler Nation Australia humble opinion, and I thank you for listening, I believe that Mason Rudolph will be backup. Now, it does sound strange because you just hyped up Kenny Pickett so much, and I want to see Kenny Pickett play. However, at the same time, I believe that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers might do. They might label Trubisky as 1, Mason Rudolph as 2, and put Kenny Pickett on the sideline as quarterback number 3, holding the clipboard and possibly not even dressing for games. So we might see him on the sidelines, not even dressing, putting a helmet on or being a part of the 53 when it comes down to, I think it's the 46 or 47-man roster on game day. I don't think he'll dress. I think it's going to be Trubisky and Rudolph, and they're kind of going to save the diamond player that is Kenny Pickett. That's what I think may happen. Now, could I be wrong? 100%, right? I don't think anyone truly knows what's going to happen. There could be a shock pick at quarterback being Kenny Pickett, becoming number 1. There could be a huge shock that Mason Rudolph becomes quarterback number 1, okay? All these things may happen. But the most entertaining idea, I think, about this whole thing is the quarterback speculation that we've been doing for 7 months, right? 7 whole months since Big Ben left. And we've never had this opportunity to talk about the quarterback camp battles. So in reality as well, guys, no matter what level of fan you are, how big a Steelers fan you are, you can't be wrong, right? If you're a Mason Rudolph fan, go and cheer Mason Rudolph for number 1. You can't be wrong because we've never been in this situation. If you're a fan of Kenny Pickett and you only want to see the young guy play, Kenny Two Gloves play, then you can't be wrong either, right? You just can't. And lastly, if you're a fan of the free agent pickup Mitchell Trubisky coming into town and taking over and becoming the quarterback number 1 for the next few years in Trubisky, then you also can't be wrong. So I'm kind of sick of this narrative of like a lot of fans out there think who should start and they think they know it all. I don't know it all. I'm just saying what I think might happen. Trubisky, Rudolph, Pickett will be my order, right? The big thing is, guys, I don't think this team is built around. It has to be built around the quarterback. I believe that we get some better O-line play. They be more physical. They run Najee. They use Warren and use Snell or use McFarland, whoever they want to use back there, as a second running back. This defense can play lights out. Hopefully, that it's going to be more reamped than anything else. And I don't think we need to have a lot of pressure on the quarterback like we did a lot with Big Ben. And that's truly what I think. I think if they start any of those 3 quarterbacks, I think it gives them just a bit better chance as anyone else. Now, for sure, can Kenny Pickett go up there and absolutely light it up? Possibly. But he also might get rookie nerves. If we look on the negatives, if we start Kenny Pickett in Bengal territory, he might see this NFL team and get absolutely carved up. And that's going to be interesting, right? Trubisky got a more veteran head, and so does Rudolph. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that's my first quarterback, my first podcast edition on Steeler Nation Australia on YouTube, Steelers Nation Australia on Spotify and Anchor, and possibly Facebook. I'm trying to go hard in the paint. I'm trying to get my voice heard around the world. So if you like this stuff, let me know in the comments. If you like the longer form podcast, I might try and do this more on a regular basis. But I just wanted to express my Steeler opinion, what I think is happening with the quarterback number 1 position. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoy the content. And as always, here we go, Steelers. Here we